Online relationships. Let's be real. Back in the day, if you wanted to be in a relationship, you had to actually go outside, meet someone, put in the effort, and risk the horror of making eye contact. But fast forward to today, and Gen Z has found a way to dodge all that, and it's simply by dating Wi-Fi signals and profile pictures instead. The truth is, real-life relationships are hard work. I mean, there's the emotional effort, time commitment, and worst of all, the expectation that you'll actually have to leave the house and go on dates. However, online relationships, on the other hand, come with all the fun parts of dating without any of the messy, real-world complications. For starters, physical appearance matters way less in online relationships. No need to shower, dress up, or even worry if your breath smells like a crime scene. Your online partner only knows you as your best, most carefully Snapchatted selfie, the one with the perfect lighting and 15 filters. And let's not forget the fact that in virtual relationships, people can communicate entirely through text, meaning there's no need to worry about stuttering, awkward silences, or even speaking at all. Some Gen Zs are even in serious long-term relationships with partners they've never physically met. Thanks to social media, gaming communities, and dating apps, it's easy to fall for someone who's 3,000 miles away, across multiple time zones, or possibly even living on an entirely different continent. While this makes for some heartwarming love stories, it also makes physical intimacy nearly impossible. After all, a Zoom call might keep the romance alive, but it's not exactly a substitute for actual, in-person, one-on-one action. Porn accessibility. Once upon a time, if you wanted to see something risque, you had to work for it. And when I mean work, I mean work. You had to either sneak into a convenience store, buy a suspiciously thick magazine with cash, and hope the cashier wasn't judging you too hard. Or if you were really desperate, you'd have to wait for scrambled adult channels on late-night TV and pray for just 1 second of clarity. But now, you can watch literally anything, anytime, anywhere in 4K Ultra HD with VR compatibility, and the only thing stopping you is your Wi-Fi speed. In the real world, real-life intimacy is a process. First, you have to find someone, then you have to charm them, flirt, go on dates, make sure you don't smell bad, figure out consent, and navigate the messy, unpredictable world of human emotions. Porn, on the other hand? Well, the game just got a lot easier. There's no awkward small talk, no risk of rejection, no need to impress anyone, make eye contact, or even get out of bed. In fact, you could even choose the exact kind of fun that excites you and be satisfied in 5 minutes or less. And here's the problem with this. The more people get used to unlimited choices, the less satisfied they are with reality. A real-life partner might not look like a professional model, they might not be down with some of the disgusting things that turn you on, and would definitely not come with cinematic lighting, a high-definition camera crew, and the dramatic background music. Over time, some people develop what's called porn-induced sexual dysfunction, meaning their brain becomes so used to hyper-stimulated content that real-life intimacy feels really underwhelming. It'll feel like watching a Marvel blockbuster movie in IMAX and then trying to enjoy a black-and-white indie film with bad audio. Well, you can see my point. Mental health struggles. Let's say you lived in the 1800s. The only thing you were probably going to be struggling with was famine, the occasional threat of war, and maybe 1 or 2 viral outbreaks here and there. I mean, no biggie. The worst that could happen then was entire villages dying from something as insignificant as the flu. However, in this day and age, things are a little more different, as the struggles we face now are more internal. Most young people are now more stressed about accidentally reacting to an Instagram post from 2016, and the modern world isn't exactly helping, as it comes with a constant stream of anxiety triggers that are totally not a recipe for romance. You see, anxiety makes people hyper-aware, so instead of enjoying the moment, you're stuck over-analyzing it. And let's be honest, it's hard to get in the mood when your brain is running a PowerPoint presentation on everything that could go wrong. Then there's the sad reality that a lot of people are going through some sort of depression. And if you know anything about this, then you know that it doesn't just stop at making you sad, it'll also make you tired, unmotivated, and allergic to human interactions. So instead of dating, socializing, or even getting out of bed, you'd spend the whole day doom scrolling and having existential crises at 2 a.m. Thankfully, mental health struggles don't have to mean a life of loneliness and celibacy because therapy, self-care, and healing can help break the cycle. Want to find out more? Well, then hit the subscribe button to get all the entertainment you need. Performance pressure. So, after months of constant DMs, video calls, and Instagram Reel videos, you're finally alone with your crush. I mean, the mood is right, the lights are dim, and things are heating up. But then once it's time to get down and busy, your mind is suddenly flooded with the most random, intrusive thoughts. What if I'm not good enough? What if they compare me to their ex? What if I last shorter than a TikTok trend? What if I make a weird noise and it haunts me forever? Sound familiar? Well, that's exactly what performance pressure does. This is a situation that quite literally turns what should be fun into an anxiety-inducing Olympic event. Thanks to social media, Gen Z grew up in an era where everything feels like a performance. It's not just about looking good, it's about looking perfect. Dating someone has to have a cute distance post, going out must be Instagram-worthy, and even something as simple as eating a burger must get the right camera angle. So of course, Gen Zs apply this same unnecessary pressure and perfection to their bedroom, turning an intimate moment into a live-streamed talent show even if no one's actually watching. Sadly, another side effect of living in the age of instant feedback is that Gen Zs are terrified of bad ratings. No one wants to be the one people warn their friends about. The fear of judgment is so intense that many Gen Zers are avoiding intimacy altogether rather than risking a bad performance. But the truth is, sex isn't supposed to be a perfectly choreographed TikTok dance because it's messy, awkward, and sometimes hilarious. But when you expect yourself to perform at a 10 out of 10 level every time, the stress makes you freeze. And when the pressure gets too high, many people just check out of the game entirely. Hookup culture burnout. So for over a month now, you've been swiping through dating apps like a pro, but then you've noticed one very constant pattern. Every single bio is the same. Here for a good time, not a long time. And the worst is that every convo follows the WYD. Chillin' you. Bet. Wanna come over? And just like that, you're expected to risk your safety, time, and emotional stability for a mediocre encounter in an apartment that smells like Axe body spray and regret. I mean, it's only fair that at some point you hit a wall, as the endless swiping, shallow conversations, and you up texts would start to feel like a second job, but without the paycheck or benefits. And this is simply where a lot of Gen Zs are, the hookup culture burnout. Sadly, the hookup culture sold us this idea that caring is cringe, and that emotions are too much. So now we've got people trying so hard to act unbothered that they end up exhausted from the performance. If you text first, then you're desperate. If you show any kind of excitement, then that's clingy. And you definitely can't ask what you actually want because that's scary. Basically, the idea of meeting and hooking up with new people is no longer exciting, rebellious, even glamorous, but simply just exhausting. So most Gen Zs have simply dissociated themselves from the entire situation and are now in search of something more intimate and meaningful like emotional connections. Trust issues. If trust is the foundation of intimacy, then Gen Z's foundation is, well, crumbling like a badly built Jenga tower. I mean, Gen Zs grew up in an era where betrayal wasn't just a personal fear, but a collective experience. Now you don't just hear about heartbreaks and scandals from close friends, but you get to watch them go viral every single day in real time. It's either people are catfishing others like it's a full-time job, or there's a new cheating scandal on Twitter every morning. Then there's the situationships and lying for no reason. It's honestly an emotional war zone out there, and unfortunately, when you live your life constantly seeing people get played, ghosted, lied to, or scammed, trust issues would simply become a default setting. The worst part is that even when someone does seem trustworthy, the trust issues still won't disappear, as they'll manifest in sneaky little ways. Basically, Gen Zs want connection, but they don't trust it, so they end up self-sabotaging before anything real can even happen. Living with parents longer. Let's say you finally match with someone who isn't a walking red flag. You flirt, the vibes are immaculate, and the chemistry is undeniable. You're both feeling yourself, and you just know tonight could be the night. But then there's just one problem. You live with your parents, and the only alone time you're getting is a walk to the fridge at 2 a.m. You see, in the olden days, moving out was quite literally a rite of passage. You hit 18, you get a job, and just like that, you're in the world navigating your own path, free to make all sorts of terrible decisions in your own apartment. However, once again, Gen Zs got the worst end of the deal because in this current economy, rent is simply utterly outrageous. Landlords are are charging $1,500 for a shoebox with no windows, and even the wages haven't caught up. I mean, our parents bought houses with one income. We're out here debating whether we can afford cheese. So most Gen Zs just moved back home or never left in the first place. And, well, while it makes financial sense, it's not exactly a libido booster. Changing gender roles. For centuries, dating followed a very predictable script. Men pursued, women waited, men paid, women said, "Aw, thanks." Men made the first move, women decided whether to accept or reject. Sure, it was outdated and kinda sexist, but at least everyone knew their role. But now that script has been torn apart, discarded, and set on fire, and Gen Zs are full-on freestyling. Thanks to the changing gender norms, both men and women are more independent than ever, which is great, but it also means that men are no longer expected to provide, but some still feel pressure to. Women are encouraged to be independent, but some still want chivalry. And both genders are afraid of being seen as too dependent, too aggressive, or too passive. So now nobody knows how to approach anyone without overthinking it. So the result simply is less dating equals less sex. Then there's the fact that both men and women in this day and age are more career-focused than ever. Nobody wants to sit at home and cook while the other goes out to make all the money. This means sex, dating, and relationships aren't exactly top priority. Basically, the uncertainty of the whole situation leads to hesitation, and hesitation leads to, well, a whole lot of nothing happening. STDs and pregnancy risk. First of all, we've seen too much. Thanks to the internet, we now know more about STDs than previous generations ever did. Back in the day, people just hoped for the best, but now we have Google, WebMD, and entire Reddit threads dedicated to worst-case scenarios. Current STDs are on the rise, with gonorrhea and chlamydia basically making a comeback tour that nobody asked for, and some infections are now superbugs that are resistant to antibiotics. And to make an already bad situation worse, a lot of infected people don't even know they have something, which is terrifying. Then there's the fact that accidental pregnancy is also one of the many things that could go wrong. And kids are expensive. We can barely afford rent, let alone diapers. Plus, with some places making abortion laws stricter, one mistake could mean a lifetime commitment. And since most of us can't even commit to finishing a TV series, you can see why that's a problem. So, when faced with the choice between potentially having a baby, getting an infection that'll make your life uncomfortable, or just going to sleep instead, Gen Z is picking the 8 hours of rest. Parasocial relationships. So, you're lying in bed, scrolling through TikTok, and suddenly your favorite creator pops up on your FYP. They're smiling, telling funny stories, making eye contact with the camera like they're speaking directly to you. But here's the catch: they don't even know you exist. This is literally what parasocial relationships are: a situation where emotional attachments are formed with people on screens rather than in real life. And well, Gen Z, the most online generation in history, has taken this phenomenon to new heights, so much so that these one-sided connections are actively replacing real-world relationships, including romantic ones. Now, unlike celebrities of the past who seem distant and untouchable, today's online personalities talk directly to the camera, engage with fans in real time, and overshare personal struggles, making the illusion of connection even stronger. So if Gen Zs are struggling to navigate love and reality, they just focus on the parasocial relationships while real-life romance is taking a back seat. And for all of you pining for the evaluator, sorry folks, I'm spoken for. Burnout and exhaustion. Between college, work, side hustles, and the existential dread of an unstable future, Gen Zs are just simply exhausted. In fact, most times it seems like 24 hours is not even enough to do everything we have to do, and by the end of the day, most of us don't have the energy for romance because we're just trying to survive. Previous generations could clock out of work and go live their lives, but when Gen Z clocks out of work, it's simply just to start another shift of answering emails, building a personal brand, and wondering if AI is coming for their jobs. So when it comes down to choosing between a date and lying in bed doing absolutely nothing, the bed wins every single time. Redefining happiness. Imagine you just won the lottery. You have millions in your bank account, a mansion overlooking the ocean, a luxury car in the driveway. By society standards, you've made it, so you should be the happiest person alive. But then, the reality is that even with the huge mansion, you feel lonely inside. The luxury car is cool, but driving it doesn't erase your anxiety. And while that fat bank account is great and all, money alone isn't fixing your mental health. That's because happiness is no longer what we were told it was. You see, for decades, we were told the formula for a good life was simple. Get a stable job, buy a house, get married, have kids, retire, and ride off into the sunset. Then, if you were a virgin too long, people assumed something was wrong. If you weren't dating, people would think you're failing at life. And worse, if you didn't get married at a certain age, then you would be tagged a spinster. However, for the Gen Zs, reality is quite different because nobody gives a damn anymore. Basically, to these guys, happiness is not one size fits all anymore, but it is all about doing what feels right for you. And for a lot of people, that means skipping sex altogether. Gen Zs are now more focused on personal fulfillment and self-growth and not just casual sex and hookups. And with mental health at the center of Gen Z's happiness philosophy, many people are avoiding situations that might drain them emotionally. And for some, that includes dating and sex. At the end of the day, Gen Zs are realizing that emotional intimacy, meaningful connections, and mental well-being often bring more joy than a one-night stand ever could.